Welcome to 2024, Troglodytes. Before we move on to our new year and all the great fun we're gonna have, we need to recap all the guitars I added to my collection in the year 2023. If you want to see guitars that were added in previous years, you're in luck. I've got extra videos. Links are in the description. And if you're new around here, I'm a daily upload guitar channel that primarily specializes in Gibson guitars. Let's get started. We're gonna talk about some Explorers. I went crazy this year, my friends. So starting off are Stars and Stripes. So this is one of the rarest designer series Explorers, mainly because it came out towards the end of the run. I did a huge trip over to the Rhode Island area to get this year. I took my whole family. It was the biggest road trip I've done in a long time, and ended up cleaning up okay. And then lo and behold, somebody contacts me. They've got one that they might be thinking of selling. So I might grab another one of these in 2024. Just makes such a great natural pairing with my Union Jacks. Because USA, UK, we're friends now. This one's technically a cheat. I have a couple of these in my collection just because they're really rare, and I love that really sweet matching headstock. If you're interested in one of these, I do have one for sale on my Reverb page. But then next to it, I think technically I bought this in December of 2022, but it still feels very fresh. It's the Regal Blue Explorer. Essentially, I'm pretty sure it came off the line at the same batch of like a Union Jack because the colors are nearly identical. It just didn't get the graphics put over top of it. I had made a short road trip up to Michigan for that one on my son's birthday, so this one has fond memories besides meeting with the original owner, but you can check out that episode on my channel where we actually interview the original guy. He sold it to buy some toy trains. But now we gotta move into the other ones that I fell in love with this year, the Explorer series. So you're gonna notice the body is a little bit shrunken down from a regular Explorer. It's 90% of what it is, so shrunken down by 10%. But we went gung-ho crazy tracking all these things down once I understood them. So this is the version that has the metallic paint job, but with the mini humbuckers. How weird is that? It actually ended up being quite a nice Explorer. Very cool with our Gibson Mother of Pearl logo. But then if you jump over here, you can also find a Swamp Ash version of one of them. But that one comes with a satin finish, so it's more of a natural vibe because of the woods that they used on it. Now, as far as our fretboard, I believe it's the same, but you'll notice this one has humbuckers. You can find the glossy finish metallic ones with humbuckers as well, but I wanted one of each in my collection. So I've got the mini humbuckers, got the straight up humbuckers with the Swamp Ash body. Now I just need a humbucker version with I really want that green finish one. Those things are pretty cool. But if I remember correctly, there's like a blue one too. But then we've got the custom version, which is what these guys are right here. We had reviewed this one. It's a kind of a Cobra burst finish. I kept this one back despite not being in the best condition simply because that's got a nice top on it. So flame maple top on an Explorer, as you're gonna see, not a very common occurrence. But we also have the bound ebony fretboard with the block inlays. Nothing too much different with our headstock, but it's just a really great example. And even though this was the review piece, about a month or so later, somebody saw that review and said, hey, I've got a natural/ambered one if you'd be interested in buying it, and I took a chance. And maybe we'll review this one in 2024 if I get some extra time. But it's pretty much the same as the ebony one. It's just a little less cool in my opinion. However, it does have the cool red cherry back instead of the ebony that we've got over here. And then one of my favorite finds this year, a mint condition, nearly new old stock 76 limited edition Explorer. When these things were first reissued, it was 1976, and this is one of the first ones. So to find it with the original shipping carton in really, really clean shape, besides like a minor ding on the neck from where it rests against the case, this, my friends, is a true 1000% keeper legacy piece. So if you missed that review and demo, please go check that out. That was the one I'm very proud of. It's got great wood grain even on the back. But as cool as this one is historically, I think my favorite fun Explorer I picked up this year was our Trade Tuesday series guitar. We traded from nearly nothing into a custom shop Explorer that's Yahoo branded. I've known about these things for years, but I didn't want to spend what the guy wanted unless I earned it somehow. So I brought back the Trade Tuesday series, and yeah, now the Yahoo Explorer is permanently in my collection. Now, if I remember correctly, there's 3 Explorers, 1 or 2 Les Pauls. The Les Paul was also for sale this year, but it's just not as cool as the Explorer. Cool swirly paint job, and I use Yahoo mail services, so yeah, that was fun. This one, it's got some holes in its story. It's the Holy Explorer. So, there was a big TikTok auction. Now, it wasn't TikTok actually having the auction, it's just that's where the announcement that this auction was going to be going on kind of went viral because they showed all the guitars in like a semi-trailer and they're like, hey, we found all these guitars, trying to make it seem like they just found it in a storage locker or something, so that's why it really took off. But there were some okay deals to be had. But next up, another one I was very happy to find this year. This was part of the Guitar of the Week series from 2007. So this one has Alan Collins' Explorer vibes to it, due to the fact that they gave it the short vibrola. These things are ridiculously hard to find, let alone in good condition, but it's got the ebony fretboard as a spec, Gibson mother of pearl logo. This one ended up being pretty darn clean, except there was some shrinkage on the neck. And it's gotten a little bit better since it's been sitting in my climate-controlled environment, but you can still just barely feel that ridge. I was really proud playing Freebird on this thing, but some people didn't think I did that good. You can't please them all, I guess. But now if you want something a little bit grungier, check this out. It's the Voodoo Explorer. It's another one of those guitars that's just nearly impossible to find in extra clean condition, mainly because these things start life as a satin finish, so they get buffed up if they get used at all. This one's actually relatively unused. It even still has the plastic over the pickguard, and of course our cool ebony fretboard with our little Scully dude, and matching red Gibson logo. But coming away from the 2000s era of Gibson, we gotta go back to the 80s. This is a signature Scorpions Explorer, also kind of part of the designer series in a roundabout way. It's got Matthias Job's signature 1, 2, 3, 1 stripe pattern on a straight up white Explorer. Stock Dirty Fingers pickups with gold hardware, making it a little bit more special. But check out the matching headstock. I've always thought that was the coolest thing about these ones outside of the stripes. And of course our ebony board. But now things get really crazy. So this is one I don't know if I necessarily consider it part of my personal collection. It's just stock that's sat around. It is still an Explorer. It's the Lizzie Hale signature. I think when did these come out? 2021, something like that. They called it the Explorer Bird. I'm a huge fan of Lizzie Hale, and I love her first two signature guitars. This one, it just doesn't look that good in photos. Like, compared to all these other ones we're going to talk about, it definitely does catch your eye, and it's got stuff that's unique to it. Like, it harkens back to the 80s with the uncovered pickups, but it's got unique black binding with these golden inlays that are kind of mirrored. It's just, this is one of my least favorite headstocks from Gibson, so throwing that on an Explorer, it's not my favorite, but it is what it is. Next up, another one that I just consider inventory. I don't think I'll end up keeping this one. It's a Custom Shop 58 Explorer, but it's one of the mahogany versions instead of the Carinas. This is what they made for years before they had just recently brought back the $10,000 Carina ones, so these were like $5,000. I picked this one up out of the demo shop thinking, oh yeah, that'd just be a great review and demo, because I see these things all the time in the mod collection demo shop. I wanted to see if I actually liked the specs. And I do, because we've got the awesome Kluson tuners. It's got the giant neck profile on it, but you save a lot of money buying the mahogany version rather than Carina. Another funny thing about this one is it was stamped demo twice, demo there and demo there. But this stamp is a little bit light, so it just looks like emo demo. And to fill out the Explorer collection here, I brought out another one from previous years. This is an Explorer E2 CMT. So this is an early 80s thing. The E2s have really interesting sculpted bodies, but this version just had essentially a veneer of flamed maple. I think it's like 1/8 of an inch thick, so not as thick as a normal top. The necks are really hoisted up on these things. But it's kind of like a Deanified Gibson Explorer in a roundabout way. The story of this one is I had bought it on eBay, but when it arrived, it had a crack in the body. So I talked to the seller. He wasn't really interested in taking it back. So he asked me if there was an amount where if I would just take it and accept it as is. So we worked on that. So you can see where it's cracked straight through the body right there. I mean, thankfully it's not really affecting the guitar, but it technically probably should be repaired. But the cost to get another one similar to this in this kind of condition, besides the crack, would just be so much more. I'm happy holding on to this one for a little bit longer because it's just a cool example. And that's right, this is a straight maple Explorer. The back of the body, the neck, 3 pieces maple, the maple top. That's what makes the Gibson E2 rather interesting. So this year I went from 6 Explorers to almost an additional 20. These are becoming some of my favorite guitars. And I'll always have a soft spot for Les Pauls, but if it comes down to a number 2 from Gibson, it has to be the Explorer. It's just such a cool shape. It makes you feel powerful. You kind of have to be a taller guy to pull these things off. I can't wait to see what I might add in 2024. Next up, some Les Pauls to grace our presence. Starting with this guy, this is one of the reissue BFGs from around 2018, so I'm still looking for the dual humbucker version. The hard thing is finding them at a fair price that's not completely beat up, but I did find this P91 this year, so kind of a retake on the BFG model. Which, by the way, if you want to learn more or hear how any of these guitars sound, there is a video out there. If you can't find it, just put a timestamp and ask me what guitar it is, and I will answer you years into the future because I do monitor my comments. But definitely try a BFG if you haven't. Moving on, we have a 2007 Les Paul Standard Blonde Beauty. So the reason why these things have a special name is they were a limited edition with the gold hardware with the two-piece flame maple top. Now, it might seem like the rosewood fretboard is pretty standard, peghead veneer's not too crazy, but where these get fancy is they also have the three-piece flame maple neck. So that makes it a must-have, even if it is just a Gibson USA production level guitar. See, this is what I miss. Gibson USA doing cool, small, limited runs of interesting things. Sticking within the same year, this is part of the Guitar of the Week series as well. This is the Les Paul Autumn Burst Supreme, but you'll notice something different about this Supreme, the fact that it doesn't have any inlays on the fretboard. Now, it actually has a figured ebony fretboard, so you don't see that every day. It also has your golden colored fret wire. But if you're not familiar with an original run Supreme, they have the flame maple on the back that's also a carved back. Whereas the modern day Supremes, they are flat backs. But this next one, I had a lot of history behind. So I first tried to buy this guitar, I think, what was it, back in 2018. This is known as the Old Hickory model. About 188 of these were crafted out of one of the largest trees in the history of the United States that was at Andrew Jackson's estate, called the Hermitage. And when that fell due to that huge tornado, Gibson took up the wood and decided they would make about 200 guitars, but they had to stop short. But these have a poplar body from that big tree, and then interestingly enough, a hickory fretboard inlaid Old Hickory because that was Andrew Jackson's nickname. I specifically wanted this one because of the colorations on the back. And I paid far too much for this, but I call this one like the dark side of the moon because the neck is perfect half and half, the body's perfect. You even have it on the side if you're really looking, but yeah, there's a little bit of cow splotting back here, but I paid way too much for this thing, and I do not regret it. It's one of my favorite Old Hickories ever, but those were done up around 1998. This one is a 1990 Les Paul Classic. We had just reviewed this. It's a very nice plain top, nothing too crazy. It's more so the history behind the original Les Paul Classics. It's a model that saved the Henry J era of Gibson as it was just starting. They were a little bit too good for their own britches, I guess you could say, so they had to change them after the first couple of years. Despite a plain top, this one actually has a figured mahogany neck. So a little bit of flame figuring in there just to make it a little more special. And now we got a trio of freaks. These things make me so happy. So first one, we found this in an auction this year. I think it was Heritage. So I bought it on a whim just to see, it's freaky. What's all of our history? So this is Carlos Santana's signature. However, after the review, I was able to find out this was not a prototype for him. It is marked a prototype in here, but a previous owner of this one reached out to me and got me the rest of the story. So one of the previous owners early on in this guitar's life had Carlos sign it backstage. But it's got the golden drum shell purfling along the edges. It's got the regular binding. It also has all that stuff on the neck, the binding cap, custom shop edition decals, stinger, inlay on the back of the headstock. And in case you didn't see it before, the giant Super 400 headstock. I mean, this thing is just so doofy. It's a Super 400 mixed with a Les Paul, and I'm glad I was able to add this odd duck to my collection. This is one of those guitars, whenever I take it out of the case, I can't help but smile. It's pretty much the signature guitar I wanted to make, because I just love the look of jazz boxes that just have the one neck pickup and everything else is just simple. You can do all your jazzy stuff. So we actually had an April Fool's video one day when I designed a guitar very similar to this. Then imagine my surprise this year when the Wes Paul shows up. That's right, it's a Wes Montgomery Les Paul mix of a Florentine, so this is late 90s. And no, I am not making that name up. It's even official on our truss rod cover, and you got your chalice up here with the flower pot. The rumor is there were a handful of these made for the NAMM show, and then they might have produced a few more. Sadly, this is one of those guitars with a real celluloid pickguard, so I can't actually keep it on the guitar while it's in its case. So it looks really strange like that. But that's part of the whole Florentine series a little bit later on after they were introduced. This is one of the Diamond Sparkle Florentines. It was a limited edition that instead of the F holes like we saw over here, it used the cat eye holes like you would find on a Dave Grohl 335, or maybe more apropos to say the Trini Lopez model, but it's just got this crazy sparkly finish. There was a whole saga with this one this year as far as the pickups went, but I did eventually get the actual original 57 Classic set put back in there. So this one has been restored back to original, and it will remain in my collection because I just like these 90s era Florentines and Bantam Elites. They just have a unique history. I think they're underappreciated at this time, and maybe people will pick up on their greatness later on. But now, flash forward to the mid-2000s. This is technically a Les Paul Studio, but it's so souped up with unique specs that it's like, okay, it just looks like its own thing. I'd call this the Daft Punk signature Les Paul. I actually had a couple of these this year, but I'm just down to this one as of right now, but it's a nice satin finish. It's really hard to find these things in clean shape, but I do suggest these as a player's guitar if you're just looking for something unique. And this one is a 2005. They also made an SG version that we'll see a little bit later on. Moving on to the other side of the table here, we'll start with this thing. So it's a weird satin / semi-gloss racing stripe Les Paul. It has a dead and alive switch instead of a toggle, with your regular toggle down here. This is the DJ Ashba signature Les Paul. One of those rare, small run guitars. It's one of those niche ones where its value just comes down to how rare they are to show up. But it's got this unique headstock to it where it has the regular phenolic veneer, then it has the matte paint around it, and then factory stock, they mount your truss rod cover upside down. We had reviewed a different one of these a long time ago, and then I picked this one up for my personal collection because it was supposed to be fairly clean, or it was a good deal, I don't remember. But this one had such light staining on the neck, you could actually see the maple grain. But I noticed this. Someone has markered Hun on the backside of the headstock. And lo and behold, my unboxing video found the original owner, and the rest of the story is this was given to him as an anniversary gift, but unfortunately he fell under hard times. So I told him, I will hold this guitar for you if you want to buy it back. So that's kind of the story of this one. Like, it's clean enough. I'm not that bothered holding on to it. But that was like, what, a year and a half ago? So I'm not sure if he's ever going to come back for it, but at least there's a story behind it now. But next, look at this thing. It looks very similar to the new Moderns that just came out, but this is a 2018 prototype, kind of for the original Les Paul Modern, we're thinking. I mean, it's a very, very active top, even in these suboptimal lighting situations, you can tell. Now, you could say it might have been a prototype for the High Performance series, which this looks very similar to, but it had the new Modern's heel cut to it. That's why I came to the conclusion that I did. Then it's really cool because we have the Apex head carve, you know, from the custom shop, and it was a little bit different. That's kind of what 2023 was about too. We documented a lot of these prototype Apex head carve guitars. Next, we got a black Les Paul Standard. That one looks like the 50s, and over here it's the 60s. This year, I decided to treat you guys. When Gibson came out with the custom color series, I ordered one of every single one, 50s and 60s neck. We took this iconic video shoot, and then I sold them all off at a huge loss. These are the two nobody wants. So $2,050 PayPal gift. I'll ship them to you anywhere in the United States. That's a you're watching this video special price. And what's a real shame is one of these was like within my top 4 of all the ones I bought because it had like unique wood grain on the edge and like some pretty decent figuring in the back there too. But now I hope you're a sports fan. Yeah, they're cheesy, but it is what it is. I figure when I get the museum up and running, somebody who doesn't necessarily care about guitars and is getting drugged to it just because their husband or wife likes this stuff could at least find some solace in, oh yeah, I like football. That's kind of cool. This is a real football top. Whether or not it's real leather, I still kind of question. Some guys say yes, some guys say no. Either way, it is not our usual top. But they made, if I remember correctly, like 3 of these. Just search Footpaul, Footpaul. You'll find that video. But as a Les Paul, it's unique because dual humbuckers, wrap tail. That's very Jeff Beck vibes. And then you get your split parallelogram inlays. You don't find that on a Les Paul too often. And it's a satin finish. This one over here, It's kind of lame. It's a bolt-on graphic. I only bought it because I was thinking I was going to be buying this and, you know, good complimentary set. And I think it was Rudy's Music I got it from. They had it for $16, and I told him, hey, if this ever becomes $1,000, you let me know. It became $1,000. Nobody wants to buy it. It's dumb. But that's why I like it, because, I mean, at least it's got the ash body, right? I mean, baseball stuff. For me, though, it's all about the case. It's got the baseball stitching, and the interior is green like the outfield, and then brown like the infield. I think the case is worth $1,000. Just one of those doofy guitars that you hate and love at the same time. It actually plays and sounds pretty good, though. Very similar to a Les Paul New Century. But then, I've had this thing. It was my first real guitar, but Sweetwater worked with me in a sponsored episode, and we just did way too many modifications to it. Like, we refretted it, gave it all Gibson electronics, gave it the kill switch. If you were to commission Sweetwater to do it, it would have been $2,500. So most people don't throw that into an $800 Epiphone, but I'm glad my first real Les Paul is now like the best it can be, and I'll eventually give it to my kids to learn to play on. So that was the whole idea behind that project. It's just as some behind the scenes work. They had offered to do that on like a brand new 50-60 Standard, and then I could have just did my usual process of finding a new home for it and buying some other guitars for my collection. But this was that one time where I was like, that's such a unique proposition that I think I should take a hold of that, because this is sat as a husk for all these collection videos. And this one, it's finally real. But enough about that, you don't care. Here's a 2014 Les Paul Lite. What makes this one special is the fact that it has a flame top. These are not spec'd with flame tops. No, it's just a wood grain lottery thing. We just reviewed him not too long ago, so you can check out that review to learn more about him. Will I keep this one forever? I don't think so. I mean, there's things that bug me about it, like the inlay. Writing got a little bit worn off, and it's not perfect condition, but it's that top, it's the good color. It's just something I'm going to hold on to for now until I find something similar that might be slightly better condition. Now let's talk about the double cuts and miscellaneous. Starting with this pretty pink thing. If you haven't seen one of these before, this is known as a modern double cut. It was a late Henry J era creation, so we're talking 2017 to 2018 or so. They made semi-hollow versions with this whole cat eye thing, and then they made the solid ones, as well as some Les Paul custom attributed ones with like the ebony fretboard block inlays. This is one of the semi-hollows. I just think the pink is the quintessential color for one of these. It's unique, it's weird, it's got black binding. The other standard and custom ones do not have that. They have the more regular colors, but they've got that apex head carve we were talking about earlier. But clumped in here with these double cuts is probably the most valuable and historically significant guitar in my collection. Yes, it's a map guitar. Tons of people have these things. They made a decent amount. But if you've ever seen the promotional flyers or the posters or this USA map guitar anywhere, it was this one. This is the poster child. I was very shocked when this video only got 100,000 views. But maybe this just wasn't posted at the right time. I saved it for a holiday and people were probably busy. This is that exact guitar, tracked down from the Hutchins family. Then the other map beside it is a prototype. Now there's actually quite a few map prototype guitars out there because they tried a whole bunch of different styles, like the stop bar tailpiece, whereas most of them are the wrap tails, and they also have varying different control layouts. So this is just a prototype version of this particular layout. But I have not fully reviewed this one. I figure next patriotic holiday we'll whip it out and do a full review and documentation on it. But now back to our double cuts. This is one of the rarest Billy Joe signature models. It's the DC Les Paul. They just did not make very many of these, and to find one in good shape took me years. But I finally found one that, if I remember correctly, I'm happy enough with it. Like, I think it does have a few nicks and dings. I mean, as far as these things go, this is a very nice example. But now we talked about the modern DC. This is actually a prototype version of them before they came out. Based on the standard, they were trying out this new bridge. And we've actually found it on quite a few different guitars at this point. But if I remember correctly, this was the first one. It was either that or the Les Paul that's somewhere in my collection. But this is a very unique beast. Love the color on it. Headstock is more so standard in style, but it also featured an apex head carve prototype. So this is before they really got the shape down. But this is one just to keep because I don't think anybody cares about it today in 2023, but in 2050, when these things have been so further obscured into Gibson's history as the weird 2017, 2018-ish models that they are, that's when a prototype could be fun. But now over here, yeah, I got one of these this year. It was a double cut Corvette. These things are expensive because they're carved out. It's got Corvette. They only made 50. This was the very last one made. A dealer buddy of mine actually sold it to somebody overseas, and then he decided to sell it to me. So that's the story of how I got this. I picked it up mainly because I thought the price was right, and I wanted to review it. Do I think I'll keep this one long term? Nah. It's on my reverb shop if you want to make me an offer. That said, I'm okay keeping this one around because I feel like I got an alright deal on it. It might not be much to look at as a guitar, but when you compare it to everything else, that red finish really does pop. But now our next weird double cut, this is known as the Vegas High Roller series, so we're talking late 2000s. This is the felt green finish. It's kind of like an offset 335. Then we've got the custom block inlays with the ebony fretboard, and then we've got a Firebird style headstock, so that's cool. On top of that, they have satin finished backs for smooth playing. Then lastly, I just recently bought this one. This is a Joan Jett Melody Maker. Close to new old stock-like condition, like we've got some tears here. But I actually have 4 of these. One was Lil Wayne's broken one on stage. Then 3 of them are fairly clean. I finally decided to list 2 of those onto Reverb if you're in the market for a nice one. This one just has the best kept satin finish, so I decided I don't really need to keep those other ones. But I love the 65 Melody Maker shape, and my mom's a fan of Joan Jett, so I always figure we need one of these, and technically this is part of the Guitar of the Week series. It was the canceled week because it just later became a real signature in 2008, 2009. Our next table here, we will start with our weird freaky duck Corvus. I didn't know which segment to put this one in. It's a Corvus 3. It's got single coils. It's strange. Nobody wants to buy it. Personally, I would like to have one that's a little bit cleaner in my collection in the orange tangerine finish. 2023, if I remember correctly, that was when the Futura prototype showed up. Because this was initially meant to be a headless guitar design, so it would have the tuners right here rather than what they came out with. Speaking of the Midtown series, I think we saw this previous. This was a Gibson USA produced guitar, so not the same as a normal 335. It's a flat top, flat back, but it looks real pretty. That one's in on consignment if anybody's interested. But then we do have a Mac Daddy Custom Shop 355 over here. This is the Chuck Berry signature model. It's another one I don't think I'll keep long term. I'm just not the biggest 335 fan, but they are beautiful. And over here we have another king of rock and roll, the BB King signature model. Although this time not the Lucille. They called this Live at the Regal. These were expensive, 10 grand brand new. Basically all that was special is the capped off studs right there with the Bigsby with the nice Argentine gray finish. Sadly, they did not sell that well, but if you're in the market for one, you got something cool to trade, I'd certainly be willing to listen to you on that. Our next 335 is the signature of Marty Schwartz, here of YouTube fame. I picked this one up to review and document. It's still in my shop. I thought he did a really good job speccing these out at the prices that he got this one at. If I remember correctly, they're like $8.99, which is not too bad for Epiphones nowadays, especially signature models. And it's even got the coil splits on it. I mean, what don't you like? Then did you know Gibson made a solid body 335? Yeah, this is known as the 335S. It's always fun to take this thing out. I love it because it's an all maple 335. And this is the fire branded version. And now over here, we've got the L6 Midnight Specials in the 2 limited edition rare finishes. So you've got your kind of burgundy sparkle metallic with the see-through pickguard. Then we've got the other version of the pickguard that you can find, and then this is the cream sparkle. I was happy to find these this year, but unfortunately, I'm still looking for a better cream sparkle because this one's got a pretty badly twisted neck. Now, could I rip the neck off of a different one, make it better? Yeah, but I would know, so I don't want to do that. But this one was a nice one. So we added quite a few double cuts to the collection this year. They're definitely not my favorite guitars, but they've started to grow on me. But now it's time for the most popular double cut Gibson, the SG. We're going to start off with one of the Chase finds this year. It showed up in Japan. Another dealer beat me to it, but then I was able to buy it from them. This is the first SG Flying Eagle to show up since their initial launch in 2018. At some point in time, somebody put a Vibromate Bigsby on this one, so you've got that felt pad on it, but that is a figured koa top. You've got your Flying Eagle style banjo inlays. It's basically the SG Artisan. And then when you flip it over to the back, you get your 5-piece flame maple neck. That's a keeper right there. But also from 2018, we've got the SG Bohemian series over here. This is one I started collecting this year, mainly because, I'm not the biggest fan of SGs. The red ones are always kind of boring to me, so as you can see in my personal collection, I like to get it flavorful. So this one is called Mink. It's like a brown color. It's quite beautiful in its own mundane way. But the Bohemians have that really cool custom pickup. They're underwound custom buckers, essentially. The Super 74s, as they call them. And I just love these things. They've got great tone. So it's that and the whole Bohemian Rhapsody type thing playing on with that name that made me fall in love with this series and want one of every color. So that's Mink. And then we've got Sage. Over here is also Sage. But you're going to notice, that's two very different hues. And remember, they made about 20 of each color. So I made the decision that I'm going to keep the more puke green Swamp Monster one because, when you have a display, it really stands out as green rather than this one who's a really dark green. But you want to know what's really funny is the same guy has sold me all 3 of these guitars. So when he came to me saying, I've got another Sage, it just has a lady on the pick guard from a sticker shadow. Would you be interested? I said, sure, because I really want the sky blue one. If anybody has the blue Bohemian SG, please let me know. I'd be interested in buying and or trading. But as far as like the Sunshine and then like the Spice, I think they call it, I'm not as interested in those because they're just variations on red. But having the blue, green, the mink, that makes me happy. Love the 2018 limited editions. I was happy to finally add an SG Goddess to my collection this year. This one still has the film over the plastic, as us crazy collectors just love, because the odds of it staying there since the year 2007-ish are very low. This was just such a cool series. Geared towards women, ebony fretboard, colored Gibson logo. Yeah, sure, we don't get the bursts on the back, but whatever. They also made Les Paul versions of these, but sadly, I don't think I have one of those in my collection at this point in time, but we have documented quite a few. This cool one's actually brand new from the Gibson Custom Color series. Technically inventory, but let's just say if nobody buys it, I'm quite happy keeping this one because the body has this great chatoyant movement to it, and mixing that with this kind of bluish green finish, it does not look out of place in my SG collection, let's just say that. But then over here, this was the research and development prototype. Not necessarily. It's a whole can of worms. We talked about it in the episode, but this is basically a pre-production version of the SG Select, which utilizes a 2-piece flame maple body instead of your usual mahogany. So you can see you've got your figuring back here too, you've got it on the edges, and the SG Selects utilize a 3-piece flame maple neck on top of that. But it's got the thin skin finish to it, and honestly a rather light lacquered job to the headstock too. This is a really sweet SG, but like if you have something equally sweet in Les Paul territory that you want to swap for it, yeah, I might one day move that on. And that's mainly just due to the condition. It was played a little bit, but that is a really cool guitar. Speaking of cool guitars, I still like the SG Zoot Suits. I don't think they play that well, but this one came to me through a trade this year. He was bringing me some consignments, and he fell in love with a Les Paul Deluxe. So instead of coming home with no money, he decided to just swap 2 guitars for that Deluxe. And I've been wanting to get a complete set of Zoot Suits again. Back around, 2018, I bought a complete set with the Les Paul for $10,500. I wish I could do that again. But these definitely are not for everybody. And they went insane in prices recently, but most people aren't paying the crazy asking prices, but they have gone up a lot since when I first bought them. So that is half of our tables. What's on our other side? We'll start things off with the Angus Young Signature SG. I actually had one of the prototypes of this guitar, but I did end up selling that this year. I know, very sad, but it was an offer I couldn't refuse, and I bought some other cool stuff. This one I got out of an auction, and it was like really clean, but Unfortunately, the auction house put some bad bubble wrap in it, and I forgot to take it out of the case when I first unboxed it. So now if you get it in the light just right, you've got like some finish checking in that area, and you've got some lacquer burn on the side. That definitely kind of stunk, but still a pretty clean example otherwise. Then over here, we've got the early 2000s Tony Iommi SG. Picked this one up off of Reverb to review and document. I don't think it's a part of my personal collection. I'll let it go when the offer's right. I would like to document the custom shop version of this year, or sometime in the future. And here we go, the good old SG Faded Maestro thing. Yeah, we talked about this one recently. We can move on. But this is another one that's part of the Guitar of the Week series. So it's got the white pickguard with the red body. It's kind of channeling one of Angus's guitars. His was black though, but it's a sweet SG custom out of the Gibson USA production line. Honestly, it's one of my favorite SGs that I own as a player. Got great vibes. But as a collector, this little doofy thing that someone ruined by hacking it up with a Kaler is actually the prototype for the 70s The SG model. Don't believe me? Bam! Gibson original prototype stamp. In fact, this is the one that they used in the big paper catalog. Now, it's had a hard life of playing since then, and I've always been on the fence. Like, do I have somebody fill in the Kaler route and the mini toggle? But my answer's always been no, because, I mean, you're never not going to be able to tell that the stuff's been there, so you might as well just leave it as is. A real piece of history ruined by somebody who wanted to dive bomb on an SG. I love it anyways. Here's a cool example of how the 2000s was just interesting for Gibson. So we've got the SG Platinum. It complements the Les Paul Platinum that we had saw just a little bit earlier. But then we've got the voodoo-ified version. Just like that Explorer we saw, swamp ash body, satin finish. I'm looking for a clean example of each. So 2024, hopefully I can find a clean V and Les Paul to complete the voodoo set. This one's not the most perfect one condition-wise, but as far as these things go, it wasn't too bad. Then to round out our SGs, technically this one's a Les Paul. We had bought this last Christmas, and I thought for sure this thing would have sold like within a month, but no, still here. It's available on Reverb if you want to make an offer. I had purchased this from the original family last year, and we did a nice little documentation of that whole process and interviewed his surviving kin. I don't think I've ever seen this many SGs together at once. I was telling you earlier how, they're not my favorite, but I like their history behind them. But I just don't think people realize there's so many different iterations. That's why people like my show. Like, some people think, a Les Paul is a Les Paul. No, we're gonna teach you differently today on, every single model. And this is just 1 year's worth of collecting and documenting. They have made so many different versions of everything. But now let's transition on to some other unique shapes. So let's start with our Flying Vs. This is a Holy Flying V. I also got this as part of the TikTok estate auction. But if you're gonna buy one of the Holy series guitars, get this one because it's actually part of the Guitar of the Month series. So it gets the fancy case and all that. And I've just always loved the design of this. Having that V right there, and then the additional ones there. There's just enough holes in this story to make it cool. We also get the bound ebony fretboard with the split block inlays, which you don't find on too many Gibson guitars. Then of course our Sweet Headstock also has a hole out of it. They put a little bit more care and love into these guys. But who's this fancy sparkly boy? This is an early 2000s Lenny Kravitz signature Flying V. Now the thing that makes these things so fascinating is the fact that it's one of the very first signature Flying Vs that they made, in the sense that the custom shop really had not been making these Flying Vs for very long. If I remember correctly, it's 2001 when they started to do them. So this one's got a really cool black sparkle finish. I had one of these before, but I ended up selling it because I needed to raise some money. And I'm starting to think maybe it's time to put this one up because I'm just not much of a Flying V guy. There's very few on this table that I'll actually end up keeping forever. One of them being this. So if you've got a really strong offer, maybe you could get this from me, but this one's really clean. But the story is, I had found it on Reverb. It was the next available one, and it was signed by Lenny Kravitz on the pickguard, right here. But when it arrived, the signature was not there. So I asked the guy about it. It's like, where'd my signature go? And he's like, oh, must have wiped it off while I was cleaning. It's like, what? Come on! That was like the icing on the cake for this one. But maybe I can get Lenny to sign it another day, because then I would have to keep it. But yes, it does have the matching head stack. But this is one that I recently got for the Guitar of the Week collection. It's the 84 style Silverburst. Now, everybody in the review is like, oh, that's a terrible burst job. I mean, I guess I see what you guys are talking about. This should be more so centered there, and this is a little wide, but honestly, I don't think it's that bad. But you can check out the full review and demo to learn more about these oddly laid out guitars. This was another reverb find. It's the Rudolph Schenker, I believe the 2013 version that has the red and white pickguard. It's one of my least favorite ones, but I like the Scorpions, so I like to have their signature guitars. So this one actually got damaged in transit. It got some pretty gnarly finish checking by the nut, which was unfortunate, but thankfully the seller purchased the reverb shipping protection, so they were able to give me a good amount of money back to keep it as is. So for that reason, I'm just gonna hold that one back in my collection because I think they're kind of cool. But now one of the more controversial guitars of 2023, the Adam Jones Signature. I shelled out the $20K just for you guys so we could see it in a nice documentary episode, but I don't think I'm going to keep it. I've got it on my reverb site. I just wanted to document it so everyone could see it. Ultimately not for me, but I do like the reverse Silverburst finish, and I will still hold on to my Adam Jones custom shop, number 1979 of the initial run. But this one was Adam Jones 35. I put these two guys together because it's the most hated Flying Vs. This is another Guitar of the Week. It is the reverse Flying V. I did a collaboration with Samurai Guitarist because he loves these. I love these. People need to stop hating on the reverse Flying V. You've just never actually tried one. And I'm not talking spending 2 minutes with it at a guitar shop when it was brand new. I'm saying actually own it and give it a try for a couple of weeks. I think you will find that they're incredibly great guitars, especially that neck pickup. Over here we have a Holy Flying V. I bought that other one for my personal collection, but usually when I make a video about a guitar, I'll get somebody saying, hey, do you have one to sell me? So that's why I picked this one up. It's actually a pretty nice one, but it's available on Reverb if you want it. And over here we've got the Richie Faulkner Flying V. So similar story to the Adam Jones. I have no intentions of keeping this forever. I just wanted to document it on the show. But it is a pretty sweet Flying V. I mean, you don't find many of these things with the old double pick guard, let alone the Floyd Rose. It was fascinating. It's just active electronics, not necessarily my style. But this one, I've been getting quite a few hits every day on this, so I don't imagine it's going to last too much longer because all the ones that were slightly cleaner have sold, so these are now starting to get scarce. I mean, this one's not bad, it just needs the Floyd setup and the Richie Faulkner glasses got scratched. But this whole table could fly away, except for the reversed one. But now would you look at these weird things? Is this some sort of a boutique brand? No. They're still Gibsons, they're just early 90s. These are known as the M3 series. So my goal is to track down all 10 of them in clean condition, and that has proven to be very difficult. I actually have 3 of the rarer ones. So if I remember correctly, this is the M4S. It's got the 2 humbucker configuration, but the M3 Deluxe's body. So it's got flame maple on the back, it's got the flamey neck, it's got the walnut stripe in there, and then it's got red poplar along the edges as well. But I was able to document for the world that these started life as a satin finish, whereas the true M3 Deluxe gets the full-on gloss. But this has the whole walnut top. You can see that red stripe a little bit better because of the gloss finish, the maple. But you'll notice it has the fancy pick guard, and we have the full M3 setup with the mini toggles, the blade switch, the single coil in the middle position. These are just super cool, underrated guitars. They are fantastic super strats. And the backwards Explorer headstock is just a lot of fun. And then we've got the Stealth model. So this is black limba wood. It's another one that I'm pretty sure started life as a satin finish, but it's just been kind of buffed up into a gloss. But it's all blacked out. It gets the ebony fretboard with the inverse of the inlays. The Stealth. Yeah, these things are tough to find. I was happy to find that. So if you have cleanish condition, fair priced other M3s that you want to sell, feel free to let me know, because I am looking for them all, because I just want to see a photo of all of them together so we can, side-by-side comparison all the specs, because there's just not a lot of good information out there on the Gibson M3. But talking about super strats, we gotta look at Gibson's first one, the Victory series. I have not reviewed this particular one. I think I bought it from a Sam Ash store and just never got around to reviewing it yet, but maybe we'll change that soon because it's been a while since we've talked about the Victory series, but I've got old videos if you want to check them out. And going from Super Strats, might as well look at the two Stratocasters I currently have. This is a consignment The Strat from 1982. We literally just posted the video on that. It's kind of a heavy guitar. It's not my favorite neck profile, but man, does it sound good. I love the tones out of that thing. And it helps that it looks nice with the American black walnut wood. And then we've got my 1979 Project 25th anniversary guitar. It needs some setup work. Otherwise, I mean, it's okay. Not my favorite Strat in the world, but hey, you can get a 79 with some slightly better specs for like $1,900 on my website. That's a good deal. And now we need to slowly get back into Les Paul land. You guys really thought I would only have 2 tables full of Les Pauls? This is another BFG, but this is the limited edition that had the Schaller trem system on it. So yeah, kind of super Les Paul, I guess you could say. It's not my favorite of the BFGs. I'm not much of a trem guy, but they're there if you want them. Over here, we have that other guitar that I traded that deluxe for with the SG Zoot Suit. It's the Paul reissue. I like this one because the walnut body actually has a little bit of flamed figuring within it. And now we got that other one I was telling you guys about. We saw the modern DC version of it. This is the Les Paul version, and I think they need to bring that into production. It's unique, it's cool, but most importantly, people were really receptive of that when I reviewed it, and I wasn't sure if people would like it or not. But as far as the headstock, nothing too crazy, just your regular headstock veneer with a nice, beautiful cherry red back. But there we go. It's got that whole blunt apex head carved design we were talking about. So this one's prototype number 2. If I remember correctly, that other one was prototype number 6. There's also been like a studio version that surfaced of the modern double cut. They just all seem to go in order. So it wasn't, 6 of that other kind. It's just, it was a gradual evolution. But now we're starting to get into the good stuff. So let's talk about this custom. I found it on Reverb at a mom and pop shop that just doesn't usually sell Gibson guitars. So they were just looking to move it quick. This one's one of the 20th anniversary ones, so that tells us 74 or 75. But we have not fully reviewed this because I had bought it back when I was like so overpiled in pending review pieces. But I call this one the Bearded Lady because in the 70s and 80s, it's common to have 3-piece tops. But a Bearded Lady is when you have significant flame figuring on the left side as well as the right side, but then the centerpiece is relatively plain, which doesn't really make sense if you think about it. We should call these things sideburns, but that is a term occasionally used in the collector market, the Bearded Lady. So even when I do eventually review this one, I think I just want to keep it for now because it's just funny. It's doofy. It gives it character outside of being a really cool vintage sunburst-like finish. And it's in really good condition, except for this. Some bonehead put another Strat button at the base of the heel. Okay. This is one of those 99 serial numbers. You don't see that, so this is a late 75. But still has the mahogany neck, but we'll review this one in full this year sometime. But next, this is not the Basalt Blue Sparkle Deluxe that we reviewed this year. I just purchased this. Initially thinking, I'm just going to swap them out because this one happens to be in better condition. It just figures. I finally get around to cleaning that other one after owning it a couple years, and then another one that's cleaner shows up. Well, at least that's how it was advertised, and it didn't exactly end up working out. However, having 2 of them side by side, I learned something I never knew about the Basalt Blue Sparkle Deluxe. So this is already recorded. I'm just spacing it out because we literally just reviewed that other one. But if you're a big fan of these Sparkle Top Deluxe, I think what I found will be quite fascinating. Moving on here, we've got the Sunken Treasure Les Paul. So I've always wanted a green Sunken Treasure. This one showed up on Reverb and I started talking to the seller and she eventually decided that she wanted to take the drive down to meet me and make a bulk deal. I bought some other weird Chet Atkins Gretsch guitar from her as well. I didn't really like it, but it was fun to document. And I was initially just thinking, review and document, I'll let this one go. But I just fell in love with this example. Because if you get it into the light just right, there is quite a bit of movement within the top. It's got a bullet wood fretboard, that's why it looks a little different. Then there's also lots of candy cane striping on the neck. It's in pretty good shape outside of like some worming marks. The thing is, these guitars just aren't really old enough yet. I think if I remember correctly, it's a 2016 model, but it's another one of of those Gibson USA limited editions. But the reason they call it Sunken Treasure is the fact that you've got the sinker mahogany used on this, so it was underwater for like a decade plus. So definitely check that full review out if you happen to have missed it. Here's another one I got out of the TikTok estate auction. It's one of the Music Rising Les Pauls. It was one of the more attractive ones I've seen show up on the market in a while. I like it when they've got all the colors and they're a little bit even. But this one was in terrible shape when I first got it. It had a lot of crud all over it, so we cleaned that up and it's looking pretty good even yet till today. These are more so collector's items. I mean, they're basically just faded Les Paul standards, maybe even worse than that, but they're commemorative guitars of 2005's Hurricane Katrina. And this is an example of one I picked up simply to review and document, but then ended up liking it a lot. Normally, I'm not big into this whole tribal stuff, but it's a mid-2000s Les Paul custom when they were just going really gung-ho crazy on things like this. Sometimes you'd find carved top versions of something similar, hot rod vibes, but this just kind of gives me like Kraken vibes, so I think that's why I like it. It vaguely looks animal influenced. So it's technically for sale, but I have a pretty high price tag on it. Otherwise, it's basically just a regular Les Paul custom. But here's the only new Spotlight I ended up purchasing this year. I got this at I believe it was Heritage Auctions. The bidding didn't get too fierce, but when it showed up, it actually had a repair on the neck. So they issued me a gift card for the next auction. But I love these Spotlights so much, I just decided, I don't really care, because it was very well repaired. I can totally see how they missed it if they were, trying to process 100+ guitars in a hurry. This thing's beautiful in person. I mean, it's got the finish checking, it's got really good tone, it cleaned up just fine, it's been in a collection forever. And definitely needed the attention. But this one's number 132. I could probably be convinced to let it go. But I always hate selling these Spotlights because deep down inside, I still want to own every single one, but I know that's not healthy. But I will stick to documenting every single one just because I love them. They're all unique. They each have a story, even if there are basically only 3 or 4 different versions out there. But our next one, this is the tale also of going to Boston-ish trip and the surrounding states. So the main purpose of that trip was to get that Stars and Stripes Explorer. The secondary purpose was there just happened to be a viewer of the show, the guy who tipped me off to that. We've been trying to make a deal on some of his guitars, and he's ready to move on to other investment opportunities. So I bought like 6 guitars from him. This is a ridiculously rare 25th anniversary Les Paul Custom from 1977. Now, you wouldn't know it, but this started life as silver, and I'd sold this guitar to him a couple of years prior. But what I really wanted back out of his collection was the minty clean version. So this one I just bought to move on to its next home and just make the package deal work. But at the same time, I really have grown to love this Goldie example because it's such a great example of, hey, silver ages into this weird putrid green color. So it's come in handy in multiple occasions, like on the 25th anniversary Stratocaster video, as well as just, showing people how guitars age. It's not the finish that goes, it's the clear coat. But you don't see that model show up too often. But if you want to be the next owner of it, feel free to make me an offer. But that's not one I let go for pennies because it's still a really rare model. But here's one of those new Supremes. I like Supremes. They're cool. This new 3-pickup Black Beauty, I think is a great value if you don't mind not having the super flame top and you like the additional tonal opportunities. So for these, I'm kind of going down the impossible rabbit hole. I order a new one, and if it's not absolutely perfect, like we're talking minuscule things, I just put it on my Reverb and or website and then try again. This one's just got very minor scratches, but that one's on my website at a small discount if you're interested. And then this thing. So this one showed up at a guitar store, and their photos and description said it was like really clean, excellent condition. And then what arrives is giant gouges in the top. Now, it cleaned up okay, right? But it definitely needed a lot of work. But I had initially fallen in love with this one because it's got that awesome Heritage cherry sunburst finish. But this is one of the custom lights out of the late 80s, so it's a lot thinner than a regular Les Paul. I think it would be a lot of fun to have one of every color custom light out of the original run. It's part of why I kept that 2014 we had just talked about, as it builds on the history of the custom light, which is kind of a niche model to begin with. But ultimately, I just don't think the condition is there for my collection on this one. However, it's such a good looking example There's definitely no reason to fire sale it, but I always think of the original custom lights as one of the first good ideas that is undersung under the new Henry J ownership. But now we get to look at this one. This is a 2018 Abalone Sparkle in the lavender finish. So I wanted to pair this one with my other R7 lavender finish, just to see how vastly different they actually are. What's cool about the Abalone Sparkle series is it's not like overly in-your-face sparkle, it's really subtle. Like, it's still got a lot of glitter in the finish, I guess you could say, but it really reminds me of just like a light snowfall. But as you come over to this one, you can tell this one's more of a heavier metal flake finish. They're still small, but it's vastly different despite them being very similar color guitars. But this was a series in 2018 where, obviously, Abalone Sparkle, they used abalone inlay up and down the neck. Then you also have it on the headstock veneer. And if I remember correctly, there's 6 colors, might have been 5, I can't remember right now. The only con to these is you have to put up with the rich light fretboard because that's just the standard issue at that point in time. We documented this one and the blue one. Still looking for a green and the other colors, so if you're selling an Abalone Sparkle, feel free to let me know. But this one was another TikTok estate auction, and what makes it special is I think we decided it was Madagascar rosewood fretboard, which just looks really cool. That's my favorite thing about this one. That's why I had to bid to win. Although I don't think I'm going to hold on to it long term. I just wanted to document it. Cool thing about this one is it's also sparkly on the back. You don't find that on the custom color R7s very often. But next, everybody's favorite expensive guitar that's hard to sell, the Brazilian Dream. I think it was technically late 2022 when we saw the demo shop clear out of a lot of these. But ever since then, I fell in love with these. Around $10,000, you can get a Brazilian rosewood fretboard. I mean, nowadays Gibson's charging $20,000 for those flame top ones inspired by Tom Murphy. So these things seem like an absolute bargain. I would not suggest paying the $18,000 some guys ask, but this was not one of the blowout models, and I had picked it up at Heritage Auctions sometime this year. Now we got to continue on with our BFG collection. So this one's the runt of the litter that's for sale at the right price. I mean, Gator Green is one of those limited editions. It's one of the most popular BFGs. So it's like, yes, I have 2, but the reason why I like to double up sometimes is because you never know what the market's going to do with these things. If it goes up to the point where you no longer want to be in that market, if you bought some extras of the other rare colors, someone might want to trade. So Ink Blue is the color I want this year. But again, they start life as satin finishes, so finding clean examples tricky. But the green's got the matching green logos. And this thing's also a BFG. A lot of people did not know a BFG bass was even a thing. They're really rare, and that's why you didn't know. Now, unfortunately, this one, somebody swapped our pickups out. I think I had to replace the toggle switch here because the original kill switch was broken in shipment. I don't think I'll hold on to this one long term, but it's like, I best have a different BFG bass to replace this with before I let it go. And if I remember correctly, it actually sounded really good. It's got a cool vibe on a bass. And it's just so strange having the tailpiece and stuff all the way at the bottom of the body as compared to where it usually is. Because if I remember correctly, they might not look it, but they're about the same size. I would never believe that statement until, I see it in person, laying them on top of each other. But it is the truth. The neck is just different. And now we got a fun one. I found this on Reverb one night at an okay price. This is a Dokken signature Les Paul, better known as a Tuxedo Les Paul custom. So there was about 50 or so in the mid-70s that they did up like this. They have the white top and the black back and sides. Epiphones reissued it. Occasionally you'll get Gibson to do it. It's just such a cool color combination, but the fact that it's factory stock from the 70s just makes it ultra cool. Unfortunately, this one, it's been refretted. It's a little bit more of a road dog. It deserves to be played rather than sit in a collection. So hopefully I can find a cleaner one this year. Technically, as of recording, this is sold pending being shipped to the UK. However, there's a slight possibility that sale might fall through because he was having some issues with the return of a previous guitar that he used for the funds to buy it. So we'll see if that sticks around with me for a little bit longer, because I would rather not let a Tuxedo go because I know they're hard to find, let alone in any condition. And then a similar story on this one. I've had this Tak Matsumoto for a couple of years. He's basically like Japan's version of Slash as far as popularity goes, but I'm trading this one away currently. He had a different tack model, and he was wondering if I would trade and he would add cash over time. So kind of like a layaway situation. And I figured, you know what, sure, I'd like to document more tack models. There's just not as much of a demand for these things in the United States. But his whole thing is, kind of a quilty top with the black binding and abalone inlays. So if you like that on various Gibson guitars, you will like the tack Matsumoto signatures. I wouldn't mind documenting one of his Firebirds. Because that's the sad thing this year, I did not add any new Firebirds to my collection. So if you have custom colored 90s Firebirds, feel free to let me know. I really like the custom shop edition ones. But sadly, since I've been talking about them, the prices have gone up. But we got 2 more yet. This is a Hot Rod Les Paul Studio. Check out the review. It's got a lot of cool, unique specs, like a thicker body and basically a bucket head, but a lot cheaper. Like one of those weird fretboards, but it looks close enough for ebony to most people. But while technically a studio, it's got a standards headstock, so it doesn't feel like a studio. And this thing, it's a Challenger. I think I found it on eBay. It wasn't particularly expensive. It's not in the best of condition. However, it presents really well from far away, but this is a 1 pickup version. They're not the best guitars. It's part of the All-American series from the 80s. It's got an ebony fretboard. It's another one of those ones where I'll just hold on to it until the right offer comes. Because if I had to go out today and buy it, it would still cost me about $1,000. So that's why I have it priced where I do. I wouldn't necessarily suggest a Challenger unless you have the collector bug or you just happen to have some sentimental attachment to the model. Let's move on to our last table, which I saved the best for last. The guitars I'm most passionate about, the Norland era, the rarities, the special one-off pieces, Les Paul owned stuff. Here's what I was able to accumulate this year. The very first super custom made in 1979. Still retains the rosewood binding. Got it out of Israel just in time before all the terrible stuff started happening. You can check out the review for the full story, but basically this was initially given to Les Paul and then he ended up selling it off. But he did have a second run super custom, and the owner of that actually reached out to me this year. Never heard back from him after my email, so hey, if you're watching this, check your spam. My response might have ended up in there. But it's essentially the Les Paul with a 2550s neck, and the rest is just history for this model. Following that up, we have just a regular 78 custom. I'm kind of on the fence about this one. I might sell it to the right offer, but it's just such a beautiful one. Not all natural customs get this nice natural figuring. Again, it's just luck of the draw. It's a 3-piece top, but yet you've got even flaming pretty much across all of it. I was really happy with this one until that one came into my life. But at the same time, this is just regular base custom specs, and I would like to have one of every single custom color. Because 70s and 80s LPCs are just my favorite base model guitars. And this guy might not be as expensive as these others on the table, but he's just as cool. It's not a regular Marauder, this is a Marauder custom, so you'd actually see this in like Paul Stanley adverts. So if you ever wondered why that particular one had the small block inlays, it's because it was a higher end version that they only made very few of. Probably because there just wasn't much of a demand for it, so to find these in clean shape has been difficult. But if you watch the review, there's a few different versions. So I have 2 of the alternate versions of the Marauder Custom in my collection. And now the Big Mac Daddy himself. I got myself the Les Paul again this year. I actually bought a collection of guitars from somebody, and it ended up working out okay after I sold the other ones, because people have been asking $40K plus for these things. I don't agree with those price tags. I think we should still be about half that. But it only takes one guy to pay that price, and then you'll never see the other ones again. So even though this one's not perfect, it's more so player's grade, it's been refretted, not that you'd ever be able to tell because the thing's just so darn fancy. I didn't want to get priced out of this market. But thankfully, 2023 is the year when things finally started to slow down. So from late 2019 all the way until about 2022, the market was just so hot. We see things go crazy in value. But 2023, towards the end, I think we might see the prices start to come down a little bit, at least for the common stuff. I do get some people asking me, well, what do you think about the collector market? Is all this stuff just going to become worthless? No, it's not going to become worthless. But at the end of the day, you should only be collecting what you like. I mean, that's why I do this. I mean, this could be worth nothing tomorrow, and yeah, I'd be sad, but at the same time, I still have this great guitar. But the days of buying brand new guitars and flipping them for twice as much, those are over. In my opinion, but who knows? I remember when COVID was first coming around, everybody was selling their stuff off thinking everything was going to become worthless, and yeah, now look at it. 2 to 4 times as much. So just enjoy life while you can and buy what you like. Don't worry about future values. So this is a rare Les Paul signature custom abalone stereo. I forget what I called it in the video because there's no real good name. So there's a few of these kicking around out there, and I happened to buy this year. Pat Smear of the Foo Fighters has a different one, but it's just a weird guitar, right? So it's a maple-bodied Les Paul. So those other ones we were just looking at that had the figuring and whatnot, those are like 1/8-inch veneers. It still has the mahogany core, whereas this one is just solid maple. Now, solid in multiple pieces, but check this video out if you've never toyed around with a stereo guitar. That's a lot of fun. But this also has the cool abalone inlays and the headstock. I mean, this is not special compared to like today's stuff, but this is 1972. You just didn't see this hardly ever. And I have a lot of nice guitars in my collection, but this might be the crown jewel right here. It's just a lowly 20th anniversary 1974-ish guitar, but the figuring is just phenomenal. It's a 2-piece top. We were talking that it might have been made for George Harrison. I'm pretty sure that story is false now, because guess what, guys? I saw photos of a second one like this. So it might have just been like small NAMM run that they were showing things off, or it could have been a like dealer custom order, but these just have phenomenal tops. But it's cool to know that there is at least one more out there. He wanted to buy mine, I wanted to buy his, so we're at a standstill as far as that goes. But his also had the slightly off-centered going diagonal top. But this one also has the crazily figured neck. Then we were talking about this one not too long ago. It's the 25th anniversary Les Paul Custom that Guitar Center did, but this is the clean one that has the 25th anniversary tailpiece as well as the Les Paul engraving signature on it. I always hype this one up so much in my head, but then when I pull it out of the case, it's like, well, it's not perfect, but you also have to have managed expectations. Most of these are not in that good of shape, but that one's in my personal collection. I will not sell that again, but I am looking for the gold hardware version. I want to preface that with stock from the factory. I'm not looking for gold hardware to convert this one. There were 2 versions of these, one with the chrome hardware, which makes more sense, and then one with the gold. But speaking of gold, yeah. I don't own many true vintage Les Pauls, but this is a 1969 Deluxe, one of the first ones made. And the way that you can tell that is up here on the headstock. We don't actually have the Les Paul model silkscreen. They put Les Paul Deluxe on the truss rod cover to start. And it's stuff like that that just gets me so excited. And it's the reason why I don't have many true vintage guitars in my collection, because they're just kind of boring to me. They're all relatively the same as far as it looks. But when you learn about small model variations like this, or like the very early Les Paul Juniors actually have a maple body, or like some gold tops don't actually have the maple top to them, they're all mahogany, stuff like that gets me excited. But this is just a fantastically clean one. The story is a collector passed away, but his birth date was in 1969, so he specifically collected 69s. So I pulled this back out of London, out of that collection. But that's just history right there. Even if deluxes aren't as popular as the 68s with P90s, this is way cooler in my opinion. Hopefully I can still get a crowned headstock 68 in the collection though. But now let's talk about my custom color Les Paul Customs. So this is pearl white. I think I actually bought it like 1.5, 2 years ago. But this year we finally got it cleaned up and reviewed, so you can find all the goodies out in that episode. But basically, it's a pearlescent white. So it has a little bit of a metallic sheen to it. But as these age, they just kind of become like a golden pearl color. But next up, we have Harvest Gold. We learned a lot about this, but I also need to issue a correction. Gold Burst is a color. It's on the official specs for the XR series, but this one's known as Harvest Gold. And most of them were refinished at the factory due to all the orange peeling issues, but that's a cool one. We've got Charcoal Metallic, better known by its common name, Gunmetal Gray. This one's olived out a little bit. We do need to review this yet, so I'll be cleaning this one up shortly and we'll see a full documentation of it again. But over here we've got the Candy Apple Red, another one of the Orange Peel sister guitars. It's the gold base coat version, which is the rarest. The silver base coat was a little bit more stable, I guess you could say. But now we've got the Christmas Artisan from this year. I'm torn. Somebody made me a pretty fair offer on this one, so I don't know. I mean, it's the color. That's why I've always liked it. I've never forgotten this one. I've sold it once, then bought it back. It's just such a nice 2-pickup version. I hesitate to let it go because I've never seen another one exactly this hue. And as we talked about in the review and demo, some of it is because of uneven fading. So I guess time will tell on that one, but I love this 1980 Les Paul Artisan. But then I got this minty new old stock, hardly never even played Firebrand Les Paul. It's not as fancy as some of these other ones, but I love these guitars. So finding a new old stock condition one, still kicking myself for not buying that $1,400 mint one. I just had to ask questions. But then besides Sparkle Top Deluxes, in the 80s, they toyed around with these weird cherry sparkle and various other black sparkles and whatnot. These are not well known or talked about in the slightest, so they're not quite as valuable as the Sparkle Top Deluxe because of that. But this one is cherry sparkle. No, it's not a refinish. Basically just a wine red Les Paul that has glitter thrown into the clear coat. Very similar to those midnight specials that we saw earlier. But what's really cool about these is, this is the 80s. You've got a matching sparkly headstock. That's always been my favorite thing about those guitars. Then we already talked about the Abalone Sparkle Customs, but in reviewing my inventory list, this is the one I bought this year. It's the blue, the lavender I've had for a couple of years. It's such a beautiful guitar because obviously it reminds me of my blue Sparkle Lead Deluxes. But you got your abalone inlays all over. All right, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed the collection recap this year. This is how we're going to be doing it in future years. At the end of 2022, I told you that was the last time I was laying out my entire collection. But recapping everything that I've collected or still have from the current year is something that's a little bit more sustainable. As of right now, I still would like to make the museum a real thing, so I have opened up ambassador tours. The price is a lot, but I've done a couple of them, and we basically just spend the entire day together. We talk about guitars, I can answer questions about your guitars. All these Les Pauls and various Gibsons that you've seen in this episode, you get to see them in person. You can even play many of them. It's just a great experience. And then we go out to dinner, and I mainly started offering that because I get messages of people saying, hey, I'm not sure I'm still gonna be here by the time you finally get that museum up and running. So that's an option if you want to skip the line and help the museum become a reality. But you can find more information on my website. But for historical preservation, at the end of the year 2023, I had 281,000 subscribers and roughly 2,400 videos. And my most popular video, the Fake Pit story. However, this guy's starting to catch up. Thank you for taking this journey with me, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.